Hello and welcome back to p3&4 podfic. This is the reading of After a Fall by innocent_reader, and this will be Chapter 9, Between Ashes and Hope, Part 3 and 4. The silence lingered in the room, dense, suffocating, as if each of them were trapped inside their own maze, unwilling or unable to escape. The tears had dried, but the pain was still palpable, drifting through the air like an invisible haze. Dust, smoke clung to every corner of the old theater. The torn curtain let in a narrow band of moonlight, cutting across the splintered wood and floor like a silver scar. Tiny motes of dust danced slowly in the beam, suspended in time, caught between shadow and light. Satana raised her head slowly, drawing in a deep breath, fighting against the tremor that still lingered in her voice. Grief can wait, she said, her voice fragile but steady. There's still people out there who need protecting. Her words hung in the air like a thin strand of light piercing darkness. It wasn't much, but it shifted the weight pressing down on them. Dick leaned forward, and even the sound of his voice felt different, less smothered, more alive. She's right. We can't stop now. Not now. Roy let out a heavy sigh and pushed off the wall. The floorboards creaked under his steps, the sound echoing in the narrow room. Fine. But what exactly do we do from here? Dick rested his elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the floor as if arranging pieces of memory. I tried everything the back computer still has. Coded lines, emergency protocols, even the oldest back doors. He lifted his gaze to meet theirs, sharp and serious. I used Batman's own login to get into the comms. The room froze. He didn't have to explain. If not even Batman's access worked, then the network was far more broken than they feared. And Roy broke the silence, his voice low. Nothing. Dick shook his head, frustration cutting into every word. The only ones I reached were you, Roy, through Oliver's leftover channels. Satana, because your father had an emergency key linked to the system. Beyond that, it's just static, broken signals, noise, and silence. He exhaled, almost defeated. It's like the world's been erased. Midoriya, sitting in the corner, blinked wide-eyed. Then, you're saying it's just you four left? No, Dick response was immediate, firm. I used to believe that there are others, survivors, fighters. They're just cut off, and we need to find them. Then we need to be more direct, Wally said, pacing arms crossed right across his chest. Some way to broadcast to whoever's still out there without relying on deadlines. And what exactly? Roy shot back, one brow raised. Walkie-talkies, carrier pigeons. His sarcasm carried more despair than humor. Midoriya raised his head, hesitant. Isn't there some kind of central space somewhere heroes used to gather? His tone was innocent, genuine. He really didn't know. Wally and Roy traded a look before Roy turned to him. There is. Or there was. He breathed deep. The watchtower. Midoriya blinked, confused. The what? Roy gestured vaguely, searching for words. It was maybe still is, the base of the Earth's greatest heroes. A station in orbit watching the whole world from up there. They could track threats, coordinate ops, stay connected to everywhere. Midoriya's eyes lit up in awe. A space station just for heroes? That's amazing! Yeah, Wally muttered though his voice was heavy, bitter. It was the heart of everything, and when it went dark, it was like the whole world went with it. Dick rubbed his jaw, the weight of it settling on him. Even if the watchtower is still running, we don't have access. Only the League did. Not me, not any of us. The words hit like a final sentence. Satana sat quiet for a moment. Her fingers brushed, almost instinctively, against the pendant hanging from her neck. The touch stirred an old memory. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, soft but firm. Always keep a way back, daughter. One day you may need it. She closed her eyes, drew in a deep breath, then looked up at the others. Her voice came low, hesitant, yet clear enough to shatter the silence. I have access. Every head snapped towards her. What? Roy was the first to act, disbelief sharp in his tone. Satana gripped the pendant tightly, as though anchoring herself to it. My father, Zatara, he gave me a permanent pass. Said it was a precaution in case something went wrong, made me promise to keep it. And I did. Wally froze mid-step, his arms falling limp to his sides as if her words drained the strength from him. You're saying you can open the watchtower? I can try. Her voice steadied now, stronger. Dick studied her in silence, the shock in his eyes replaced quickly with focus. That changes everything. Roy let out a low whistle, shaking his head. You've been sitting on that ace all this time, and only now you drop it? Satana met his look, unwavering despite the dry streaks on her cheeks. I wasn't sure it would work. I didn't want to give false hope. Midoriya stepped forward, his voice glowing with unshaken faith. This could be it, our chance. You can really take us there? Satana nodded, clutching the amulet tight against her chest. Yes, but we'll need a safe access point. Silence broke again when Dick spoke, already piecing together the risks. If that pass works, there's one way. All eyes turned to him. The backgate's Zeta tubes. His words hit heavy, but his tone carried determination. It's probably the only one still working if the power's still up there. The Zeta will get us in. Roy arched his brow, a half smile tugging at his lips. So, we're going back to Gotham. He shook his head. Didn't think I'd ever say that again. Or what's left of it, Wally murmured, but his eyes carried the spark they hadn't before. Midoriya straightened, almost eager even under the weight of the mission. Then let's go. If there's even a chance of finding others, we can't waste it. Stana finally loosened her grip on the pendant, as though realizing the old burden. Her voice was hoarse, but steadier than up before. My father always said that even when everything seems lost, there's still a path forward. Maybe this is ours. Dick rose to his feet, steady and unyielding. The chair creaked behind him as he placed a hand before the makeshift maps on the table. He looked at each of them in turn before his gaze settled, sharp and resolved. Then it's decided. We head to the back cave, and if we reach the watchtower, we won't be alone again anymore. No one spoke, but around the table, a silent pact was made. The theater was still cloaked in shadow, but dust still hung heavy in the air. Yet between them, something had shifted. For the first time in what felt like forever, the room wasn't ruled by grief. It was held together by promise of purpose. And now, let's head to chapter 9, Between Ashes and Hope, part 4. The plan took shape quickly, precise, cold, and steady. The kind of clarity only those who had already faced the end of the world could muster. Dick leaned over the map spread across the makeshift table. His finger, he traced a long line, cutting across almost the entire country. From San Francisco all the way to East Coast. Gotham's in New Jersey. His voice was steady, but there was a tension buried in every word. If we stick to this route, skirting the worst of the devastation, it's still going to be a long, dangerous trip. Roy let out a low whistle, crossing his arms. Long doesn't even cover it. That's crossing a whole country through a graveyard of cities. Ollie gave a nervous laugh, running a hand through his red hair. You think I don't know that? He shook his head, eyes fixated on the map. When we left Gotham with Deku and Dick, I didn't think I'd last a week on this crazy road trip. He glanced towards Roy and Zatanna, his expression softening. But I had to try, even if it was hopeless. I just wanted to see you guys. The silence that followed was short, but heavy with unspoken truth. Even Midoriya in the quiet corner gave a small nod, understanding the weight of those words. Dick lifted his gaze from the map, all answering calmly. Then it settled. We know where we're going now, and we can't afford to falter. Midoriya straightened slightly in his seat. And now we go even farther. If there's even the smallest chance of gathering heroes again, it's worth it. Roy snorted, shaking his head. Still the optimist, huh? But beneath the dryness, there was respect in his voice. Zatanna kept her eyes fixed on the map as if she could see more than lines and roads. The path is brutal, but it's the only one. If we have to cross this broken country, then we'll cross it together. Dick looked at each of them in turn before returning to the map. Then it's decided. Wally gave a short, dry chuckle, but it was genuine. Midoriya nodded in silence, absorbing the gravity of the plan. Zatanna lingered on the plan for a few moments, as though she could glimpse the dangers hidden in its curves and lines. Finally, she looked up, her face set with quiet resolve. Then we go together, she said, her voice carrying a calm strength her father always admired in her. We know what awaits us, but we also know what's at stake. Dick closed the map with a sharp motion and turned towards her. Before we leave, Zatanna nodded, already knowing what she had to do. Without hesitation, she walked towards the theater's main hall where dozens of civilians, men, women, children, were gathered. Some sat in silence, others busy with routine tasks. The theater, crumbling as it was, became a sanctuary, a fragile bubble of safety in the chaos. As she stepped into the small, improvised stage, the murmurs faded. All eyes turned to her, and the weight of expectation pressed down as heavily as the responsibility she carried. I have to leave, she said, her voice trembling but firm. I won't leave you unprotected. The low murmur rippled through the crowd like a restless wind. With a single gesture, the world's words of power that flowed as naturally as her own breath. She strengthened the words around the entrances, weaving fresh spells of concealment and protection. A faint light crawled across the walls, fading into the stone, but leaving behind the palpable sense of safety. Before she could continue, a little girl clutched a ragged doll to her chest and stepped forward. You'll come back, won't you? The small voice cut through the silence. Zatanna knelt before her, forcing a soft smile. Forcing a soft smile despite the weight in her chest. I'll do everything I can to come back. But even if I can't, she touched the girl's shoulders gently. You won't be alone. One of the community leaders, a wary man with a lined face, spoke up. If you go, who will protect them? Who will keep us safe? She stepped down from the stage, moving toward him and the others who had taken on leadership roles during these weeks. She gave clear instructions, giving responsibilities, appointing those who had already proven their strength. Finally, she embraced them in turn, holding on just a little longer each time, as though she were passing on both trust and farewell in the same breath. Take care of each other, and don't lose faith, she whispered. The eyes that followed her out of the hall carried a mix of fear and hope. Reverence and desperation. To many of them, Zatanna was the last thread. Connecting them to a world that had already slipped away. The others were waiting by the band, a battered old vehicle, scarred by too many battles, but still holding together. Without looking back, Zatanna climbed inside and shut the door. The engine gave a low growl as they pulled away from the theater, winding along the mountain road, skirting Los Angeles. The city, half in ruins, shrank in the rearview mirror, lingering like a wound that refused to close. From the higher road, they could see columns of smoke rising in the distance, black streaks across the gray sky, silent memorials of all that had been lost. The van rattled forward in silence. The hum of the engine and the crunch of tires on broken asphalt, the only soundtrack. It was Midoriya who finally broke it. He leaned forward slightly, glancing at Zatanna with curious eyes that also tried to ease the weight hanging in the air. Zatanna, can I ask you something? She turned from the window, offering him a tired smile. Where I come from, I never knew magic was real. I always thought it was just stories, fiction. He scratched the back of his neck, embarrassed. But you're really a magician? Zatanna let out a soft, genuine laugh, tinged with sadness, but real. She lifted her hand and whispered a word backward, and a small orb of light bloomed in her palm, floating gently between the seats. Midoriya's eyes widened, awestruck. It's real, she said, letting the orb dissolve into smoke. It always has been. Magic is both an art and a responsibility. Her gaze shifted back to the window, though her voice softened, carrying something precious. My father used to say magic is a language and a bond. It demands a sacrifice to understand, but above all, exists to protect. Midoriya smiled, soaking in every word as if He'd just glimpsed in an entirely new world. The group fell into silence again. But it wasn't the heavy silence of grief this time. It was lighter, the kind born from scars no longer define, but remind. The road stretched ahead, winding through scarred hills. The sun dipped behind the mountains, bleeding orange and purple into the sky, already choked with smoke and the creeping edge of night. Beyond the horizon, Gotham waited, and beneath Wayne Manor, the Batcave. Dick stared out the window, his fists curling slightly. "We're going home," he murmured, mostly to himself. No one answered. They didn't need to. Every pair of eyes turned forward, towards the road, toward what waited for them, and maybe, just maybe, toward hope. Sorry for the no, this is literally probably one of the worst videos that'll be with video qualities up to date because gosh, the room I picked today has a lot of echo. And I woke up about an hour ago, ate, and decided to start recording because I didn't have anything else to do. So yeah, my voice is it's not good right now. I just woke up, it's kind of groggy. And I also just, my allergies and my chronic condition is flaring up recently. So I've been taking pills for it since about last week or so. So yeah, I don't know. My health for now is good, so I don't think it's anything of concern. So yeah, this was it for for the whole of chapter 9 between Ashes and Hope of the fic after the fall by innocent_reader. And bye. I need to get some water and take my medication soon.